Big Kahuna.
Hey Josh, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm really good. Well, actually, I'm pretty sick. But
You're a bit under the weather. These things happen.
Yeah, they do. They do.
It's unfortunate that it's happening for the, well, I guess, rerun of the first episode.
Yeah, the inaugural.
The inaugural rerun of the first episode. Ladies and gentlemen out there, this is Dog Ugly Dudes Talking Dogs. This is the first episode. However, it is a re-recording because
the first episode. Yeah.
Because El Kahuna Grande, which is Big Kahuna in Spanish, has very high standards, and he made me realise that I had to have high standards, and I swear way too much. So we've implemented a swear jar in subsequent episodes. So it's this one's gonna be a little bit out of whack, and you'll be like, these guys are time travelers. And the answer is yes. Yes, we are.
Now, do we have to put that in there that we are re-recording the first episode?
Yes.
All right. So
otherwise I won't be able to sleep at night.
We're re-recording the first episode.
So this is going to be like, just one of those things, I guess. That doesn't make any sense. But this is the first ever episode of Dog Ugly Dudes Talking Dogs. And what we're going to do in this episode is introduce ourselves so that those people that stumble across this podcast or show have a little bit of a background as to who we are and what we do. And I want to talk about you, Big Kahuna, because I know you have a very, very good and flourishing dog training business called Master and Hound Dog Behavior and Training.
I do, yes. I enjoy it. I don't know how good it is.
I think it's very good.
Yeah, I don't know how good it is or whatever, but I'm not going to toot my own horn. But
Stop tooting that horn.
Jesus. No, but I do enjoy my business, and what it is I go into people's homes, and it's all in-home training. I don't do any sort of large class things or anything like that, and it's going in and troubleshooting what problems people are having with their dogs and their maybe it's aggression, maybe it's just bad manners, whatever it is, but I go in there and determine what's going on and then try and solve some problems for them.
And then you leave with a big tray of sausage rolls and other assorted baked goods.
Yes, yes. And then
people love you, Steve.
Oh, wow.
Sorry, Big Kahuna.
Should we address that now? The elephant in the room of Big Kahuna? That I never had that nickname before until you just decided that, which I still don't really know why. Well,
there's no real reason for you to know why, other than I like it and I think that it suits you.
I do enjoy it. I think it's a great name. Yeah,
thank you. I'd be terribly upset if you didn't like the nickname.
No, I really like it.
I started calling Steven Big Kahuna because I'd never had a friend from Hawaii, and even though Steve's from Canada, he's the closest person that I know that's from Hawaii. So
yeah, I've been to Hawaii a few times. So
there you go. So
as soon as I said that, I was Big Kahuna
like
forever.
Every other occasion where Steve had told me that he was from Canada just evaporated from my knowing and from what I'd heard before.
Oh man!
But this podcast is basically going to be about just two dog ugly dudes talking dogs. We're going to strive to encompass everything that we can that involves dogs and people might find interesting about dogs, because let's face it, dogs make our lives better and they make your lives better.
That's absolutely right, isn't it?
Yeah.
They're such an integral part of our lives these days, and they, in our homes, and we take them out to cafes and into the park and all that, and camping and wherever we go.
Yep.
So there's a lot more that needs to be done as far as training goes, and a lot more that we need to know and understand about dogs, I think, compared to what it used to be like when they were just, in and around the house, like maybe the yard or something. So I think there's a lot more training and things and understanding of dog training that people need to have these days, and that's what we're trying to get across to everybody.
So, that's what we're aiming to do. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Get ready for the first ever intro tune on Dog Ugly Dudes Talking Dogs. We aim to have a new one each week.
Yes.
And this week, it's a little ditty for you. Get ready, everyone. All right. Ooh. I do love a little bit of reggae.
Tell you what I like about that song.
What do you like about it?
Just gives me a good feeling.
Yeah.
It's just like a happy...
I know. Every time I hear it, without fail, it makes me feel infinitely better.
And since we've done it on here, in our first 4 or 5 attempts at...
Takes of this, yeah. I know.
I've listened to it about 25,000 times since that.
But it still makes you feel good.
Oh, it does. Yeah. Anyway.
You know?
Yep.
So, like, hopefully that song is what Dog Ugly Dudes Talking Dogs will be to people.
Yeah.
Just makes them feel better about everything. So, it's like, oh, crashed my car. Better put the ugly guys on.
After listening to the last couple of attempts, maybe not, but hopefully this one will be better. And
hopefully this one will be better.
This will be good. Anyway, so what are we into now? So we're talking about us. I have a business. Yeah.
Yep. Why don't we talk about what you did before and how you got into dogs?
All right.
That's always important to know.
Yeah, so I guess the way that I have to explain it is I've always had a real love for dogs and animals in general. So I used to have pets, back in Canada, which is where me and my wife are from. So we moved over to Australia 7 years ago. And we used to have horses, goats, whatever weird animals that you could find in Canada. You had
snapping turtles in your pond.
Snapping turtles.
You used to wrangle them.
Yes, we used to run away from them. You'll hear about that later. We used to run away from the snapping turtles, and there's baby deer and all sorts of things that got hit on the road or whatever. They were my family had a lot to do with like rescuing those types of things or whatever back in Canada. So I was always around all sorts of animals, so I've loved them forever, and dogs in particular. I've always loved training dogs, and even when I was little, I used to think, maybe I can get the dog to do this or do that or whatever. Nothing with any real, I guess, goals in mind, but I was just doing it for a bit of fun.
Yeah, and one time you trained your dog to do your dad's taxes, is that right?
Yeah, he did the taxes.
Yeah.
My dad is in jail for tax evasion. No.
Dog's just at that thing going... Canadian government's like, Mr. Maloche, it seems here you have claimed $4.8 million in deductions.
Exactly.
Your golden retriever's just like licking itself out the back while that phone conversation's going on.
So now that when I was young, I used to play with dogs all the time. I've always had a dog in the family ever since I was born. And we had dogs.
Yeah.
But
you had 2 dogs, didn't you? You had a golden retriever and an English Springer Spaniel.
Yes. Yeah. So the English Springer we had before I was born, so that was around when I was born, and then when I was about 3, we got the other one, the
Goldie Retriever.
Yeah, so that was Lady and Duchess. Duchess was the retriever.
Beautiful names. Yeah. Lady and the Tramp.
Yeah, Lady and
Duchess was the retriever.
Yep, that's right. So, always doing things with those dogs. Once I got older, I don't know if you knew this, I had a black lab cross retriever.
You never tell me anything. I find out stuff about you while we're doing these things.
Yeah. Which that dog was still around, into my late,
60s.
60s. Yes. Anyway, so moved over to Australia, and it was quite strange because I didn't have any animals in my life here.
Yeah.
So I was trying to get into the dog scene, and I would go anytime I saw someone's dog, I was always interacting with them and doing all that. And I decided to get into training more as a hobby than anything, and ended up getting my current dog that I have now, my border collie.
Penny Panda.
Penny Panda. She's a little bit fat like her dad.
You're not fat, don't be stupid. But Penny is a
little bit fat.
A good looking little chubster.
Yeah, so she's super cute.
I think it's just her coat though.
It's mostly her.
It's mostly her coat. Yeah.
I play it up, but
Penny, if you heard that, I'm not calling you fat.
So I got her, and I wanted to do training as a hobby, so I could be in and around dogs and train Penny up. And then from there, I got working with actually you, Josh, when we were working with
that is true.
The police and their dogs and training that sort of stuff up. And I'll tell you what, that's what drove me into what I started doing now. So I ended up realizing that I might be able to do something as a business, and I was not enjoying what I was doing at the time, which was like geotechnical work.
Yep.
Which is all soil and nonsense. And then decided that, well, I'm just going to quit and I'm going to start my own business. And that was a bit scary, and it was a bit of a...
When you quit, I heard that you drove your car into an abandoned warehouse and you danced like Kevin Bacon off Flashdance. There's actual video footage.
Possible. Yeah,
there's video footage of it from like CCTV in a warehouse in Dandenong.
Yeah, there's absolutely no question that I was dancing around because I was finally doing something that I enjoyed.
But Kevin Bacon was dancing out of like frustration that he couldn't dance.
Yeah, and I was dancing out of happiness. So me and Kevin were not dancing for the same reasons. So yeah, once I quit and started my own business, I was pretty concerned of how it would go and if there was going to be enough opportunity in that with it. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it was just like everybody and anybody wanted training.
But I think that's got a lot to do with who you are as a person, mate. I'm not tooting your horn. I'm not. We do have other sound effects. You'll see them in later episodes. But like, if I can afford to do them without, risking the later onset arthritis of having to jig around with the keyboard, I'll just do it with my vocal cords.
You do a pretty good job of your little noises here and there. Stop
tooting my horn.
Stop making me laugh because I'm going to cough and then I'm not going to get through this episode.
I didn't think kahunas got sick. I don't even know what a kahuna is. But anyway, back to why you went so well is because, and I've actually been to some clients where, I had nothing to do that day and I was like, oh, I'm going to come and hang out with Kahuna. And I think we went to like 4 or 5 and everybody just loved the way that you were so sort of interpersonal and understanding of their wants and their needs. And you don't force training a particular way down anybody's throat. If somebody says, I just want to do positive reinforcement training, then you give it a go, and then if it doesn't work out because of some reason that their dog needs other methods of training, then you educate them on why it's important to take the alternate route. And
that's absolutely well. One of the things that I when I go into any new situation, I try and find out what the people want. Mm-hmm. I don't have a specific thing that I have enough tools in my toolbox that I can do whatever they want me to do,
Yeah.
and then through that, I just explain the limitations of each thing. So if we can get them to a certain level with these methods, and if we want to go to another level, we can do these methods and we can do these methods, and whatever people are willing to do and want to do, then that's what we do. And otherwise we just get the dog to a standard that they're happy with, and then we move on. So
brilliant.
I do think people are quite happy to be able to not have to go to some rigid new training
flexibility.
Flexibility I think is key.
Exactly. Yeah. You just stole the words right out of my little squawker.
Oh boy.
Flexibility is key. And being adaptive as well to training environments and training needs and stuff like that,
Not being stuck in your ways.
Exactly. Yeah. Long gone are the days of doing things one way and one way only.
Well, you know what? I didn't mention this before, but I remember when I was really little, and we were training one of the dogs, like house training the dog.
Yep.
And I remember my parents like rubbing the dog's nose in the pee.
And
stuff. That was
what my parents
was.
Did. Yeah. That's what it was. It was like
that's what people thought they were supposed to do, and everybody that was doing that at the time had no idea that was just incredibly wrong.
Yeah.
And now when you even hear of someone doing that, you cringe.
Oh yeah, I cringe. I still know people that think that that's the way to deter the dog from doing that, mate. Yeah. I still know people.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to name and shame. I will never do that, you know?
But I've heard, okay, this is even better. I've heard of, I went to a client where a trainer told them that.
Oh my God.
So what is going on there, you know?
I'd just love to know why I'd just love to, you know, be able to listen to them explain their reasoning.
Yeah, they wouldn't be able to.
They wouldn't be able to.
Because there's plenty of science out there that says that's not correct, and this is what you're actually teaching them.
Yep.
You know, and which is don't pee in or around you. You know, like whether or not you're outside, inside, doesn't matter where you are. Don't pee near Dad. You know, that's all they're teaching you. So, and that's why you get dogs that go and pee, like, you know, they go and pee under the couch.
Yeah, weird corners of the house, like
they sneak away or whatever.
Spare rooms and stuff. Yeah,
they don't know not to pee in the house. They just know not to pee in front of you or around you or let you find it. You know, so
absolutely, man. Yeah. A thing that we should clarify before we continue on discussing our opinions is. The Big Kahuna and I at Dog Ugly Dudes Talking Dogs don't claim to know everything about dog training. You know, we're still very much learning, and part of the reason why we wanted to do this is to, you know, share what we've learned anyway, to start with, but also get people on here, guests that have had lots and lots of experience in dog training and behavior and everything to do with the dog world, and just, you know, get it all in one spot and share that for people so that they can come and listen and learn and form their own opinions. We're not trying to force any opinions down anybody's throat.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, it's important to have a critical mind, but also take in everything. If it's good science and you can see that it might work and there's value in it, then why wouldn't you take it on board?
That's right. What I like to do is like take in all the information from everybody, and then
you take it.
I take it,
and you don't.
I don't give it back. No, and then what I do is I filter through it and I go, yeah, I don't necessarily like that. I don't necessarily like that, and then I come up with what works for me. You know, and the more things that you take in, the more broad toolbox you have that you can, you know, every different dog may require a little bit different method, and if you don't have the tools, then you're trying to, you know, turn the nut with a hammer, you know, and it just doesn't work. And if you get the right tools to do the job, then you can fix more and more dogs and solve more problems than you would any other way.
No doubt.
Yep, and so that's what we're trying to do here is get all those different opinions and ideas and get them out to everybody so they can all make their own decisions and find what works best for you guys.
Cool beans.
Oh, yes, beans indeed. Anyway, so you, Josh, what about you?
So the reason, how I got into dogs was for 6.5 years I was in the army, and when I deployed overseas, 2012, I was lucky enough to meet a heap of guys that were EDD handlers or explosive detection dog handlers, and they would go out with us when we went out on patrol, and I was just like, wow, that is amazing. The work that they were doing, and you know, the bond that they had with their dogs, I was just like, that looks like the best job in the world.
So can you give us an example of how they would use the dogs in that?
Yep. So we didn't have them so I was there I got there in November, and when I was there in November it was like bitterly cold, and so they wouldn't send the dog and the handler teams out until it started to heat up, because the dogs were ineffective because the odor profiles and stuff weren't as pronounced as they needed to be
the
for
scent
the dog
cones
to eat. Yeah, scent cones, yeah.
We'll get into a million things with that, but
yeah.
The scent doesn't travel as quickly if it's cold.
Yeah. And it was like minus 14, got down to minus 20 some days.
Yeah.
And so they were like, there's no point. But in the warmer months, they'd send them out, and the handlers, if we were unsure about a certain patch of road, for the vehicles and for us on foot, we'd send the dog and the handler out in front, and then the dog would literally search, from sort of X to Z in front.
So that like a width?
Like a width, yeah. And then if there was, an IED there, the dog would indicate on it, and then that would be dealt with accordingly. Just an invaluable tool. Couldn't put money on it.
Now, did they find them quite regularly, the IEDs and stuff? Or?
In trips before mine, they found the dogs were known to find heaps of dogs, and I know the Americans and stuff like that we were talking to that were operating in different AOs and stuff, so area operations. Like they had a lot of finds with their dogs. They even had American civilian contractors with their dogs, mostly Malinois. We'll talk about them another time as well. But yeah, they were finding a lot of like IEDs, vehicle-borne IEDs. IED, if nobody knows what that means, is improvised explosive device. And they were getting a lot of fines with the dogs. Yeah,
and vehicle IED, that's one that's in a vehicle beside the road or something like that. Is that?
Yeah. Or they would often just drive them into the middle of populated areas and detonate.
Yes.
But yeah,
so they'd find those on the side of the road being
exactly.
Okay,
yeah.
Interesting.
But yeah, they'd find IEDs, even weapons caches, heaps of stuff like that.
Yeah, right. So they were just an absolutely invaluable tool.
Absolutely,
the whole time,
yeah, for sure. And I was lucky enough to meet a few of those guys, and in my downtime, got to know them quite well. I had it made up in my mind that that's sort of what I wanted to do. I wanted to transition from the job that I was doing at the time to that when I got back to Australia. The Army sort of drew a red line through it because they invested a lot of money in me to do something else, and I was like, oh well.
So you'd already got your training in another field.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I understand that.
Yeah.
But I was like, this is something I want to do, and so I got out of the Army. I moved to Melbourne, and that's where I met you at a place called Task 9. And
that's
funny
TASK.
Yeah, TASK 9.
Tactical and Specialist K9.
Yeah, and the funny thing was, like, I didn't actually do a lot of scent work there. It was you and I sort of learning how to decoy, and then training the police here in Victoria and those in Canberra in the AFP.
Yes, yeah, and taking a few bites here and there, and having a few bruises, and
yeah.
But
so I haven't had a lot to do with behavior modification in a pet sense. And that's something that I find really interesting when I talk to you about, because, working dog training, like, I don't find is that difficult, like, of a thing to. It's very, like, pre-packed, sort of like this is what you're going to get. It's the same sort of stuff.
This is the dog you get.
This is the template to do.
If you don't get this dog, get a different dog.
Yeah, exactly. Right? It's the same template. It's like
there is a big difference, I think, there.
Massive difference, because you can't just tell somebody to get another dog.
Yeah, like, exactly.
Exactly. It's so much more important to be able to be interpersonal, like I said, and understand people and have empathy. And
you're working with dogs that have sometimes very little motivation to what we want them to have motivation for, and people want their dogs to do whatever it is that they ever ask them to do for nothing, and when we're talking about a working dog, we know exactly what that dog wants, and it's the only thing that dog wants, and we use that as a training tool to get them to do whatever it is that we want them to do. And
contrary to popular belief, like, I hear people tell me all the time, people that like talk, I'll tell them that I work with dogs and stuff, and then I tell them, what I've done, and they're like, dogs don't want to bite, and I'm like, yes they do.
Yeah,
you haven't met the right dogs then if you don't think that these dogs want to bite. That is the crack cocaine that they're addicted to, and that's what they want to do.
And it's in their blood. It's in their genes. They when they see something moving in the way that like a prey object moving, they want to bite it.
They want to bite it.
They do not want to let
and
go.
And oftentimes they want to kill it.
Yeah, that's right.
And if that happens to be me in a bite suit,
in a little fluff suit,
in a fluff suit, that's what it is. And it, hearing people say that to me all the time, I got a little bit disheartened because I'm like, nobody understands. But the reason that we've started this is to hopefully make people aware and understand and educate people in a fun way.
Absolutely. Well, one of the things that kind of bothers me when people talk about the working dogs is they go, oh, the poor dog, it has to do this and it has to do that. If you didn't give that dog those things to do...
Yeah. The dog's going to go bananas.
It would have a mental breakdown.
It would.
Because they just don't... Their mind goes too crazy because they're not doing something. They need to do their job.
And, like I said, part of this and how we plan to educate people is to separate what people have their ideas of dogs and what they've grown up with and what they've only ever seen, and then educate them about what else is out there that are in a completely different category.
Yeah, somewhere where you guys wouldn't just go, where we're going to bring it all together into one place so that you hear all the different types of things and we're going to try our best not to be biased towards things.
Absolutely.
Even though we do have our opinions about certain things, we're going to try not to be too biased so that everybody can just hear all the different sides of things and we can come to whatever conclusions we feel like.
You always sound so much smarter than I do.
Boop, boop, boo, ba-doop, bop.
I cry myself to sleep at night thinking about how dumb I am. But yeah, so in actual fact, we've got a heap of guests lined up that we're going to get on the show. I actually just spoke to a lady that's a dog nutritionist yesterday.
I was on her website yesterday and I was thinking about...
She nearly sold me on it, man.
I almost bought some of it.
She nearly sold me on it.
I almost bought it for me.
Yeah.
It looks delicious.
She said that we could eat it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, well.
But I was like, the way she was explaining it, I was like, sign me up for a 10-year contract. But yeah, so, that's down the track, like things about dog nutrition. We've got breeders, heaps and heaps of breeders that we're going to talk to of different and varied breeds.
Yeah.
People that work in conservation and wildlife sort of detection work.
Yes, and hunting.
For those that don't like hunting, I'm sorry.
Well, you know what? This is, again, we're getting different sides of things that maybe some people won't like, but some people...
Exactly. It's an education.
It's education. It's not It's not about having an opinion about each of these things. It's about being educated about what these people are doing in these different fields.
Yep. We're going to talk about famous dogs throughout history that have interesting stories to tell.
Oh, like the Bin Laden dog?
Yeah, like Cairo, the Bin Laden dog.
Cairo, yes.
And other, Pavlov's dog and stuff.
Oh, yes, yes.
We're going to each week have a dog ugly topic of the week where we'll talk about, things like training, like classical conditioning, perhaps.
Yes, positive, negative reinforcement and punishment. All the terminology that we are going to be using throughout the future episodes that maybe is going to be difficult for people to understand. We're going to attempt, which is not so easy, to simplify it and make it easier for everybody to understand.
Well, that's where you come in because you're the smart one. I have a really bad tendency to, I know what I'm talking about in my head, and then the words that I actually use make absolutely no sense.
See, it's a common thing that happens in dog training, though, is the things that get used in the dog training world, actually, even among trainers, multiple trainers will use it the same way, but that way is not actually scientifically correct. So we'll shed some light on a few of those things and get everybody working on the same page again.
F yeah. I realize that I have not one swear word.
Well, this is the funny thing about the swear jar.
What is funny about it?
You were swearing so much before the swear jar, and now we've added this little sneaky punishment in, and you are...
But now the charities aren't going to get any money.
I cannot believe how significant that tiny amount of money per swear has affected you.
You know what? And I've even been thinking, I was like, 50 cents isn't enough.
Yeah. Well, not now.
Yeah.
But then if we go up higher, you're going to do none ever.
Yeah, but I don't want to anymore.
I see. It's amazing. So we've taught Josh using a mild aversive to slow down the swearing, and now what I think we're going to do is we're going to jump it up to a higher number per swear.
Yeah, it's made me a better person.
It has. We should do this with your whole life.
What's so?
No, you're swearing in your whole life, not like your overall things that you do in your life.
You know what, mate? Maybe what? I'll just have a permanent swear jar strapped to my forehead.
Oh, yes. Anyway,
yeah, we got a heap of things that we're going to talk about. This is just the intro episode, so we're not going to talk. Oh yeah, we're going to have a breed of the week, where we're going to every time that we have an episode, we're going to talk about a different breed that people might find interesting. History of the breed,
Yep.
what it looks like, who it's best suited for,
how it's changed throughout the years.
How it's changed throughout the years. A few fun facts thrown in there.
A couple of unicorn pictures.
Yeah, there is a unicorn picture. Yeah. That's the great
look
thing
forward
about
to that one.
That's the great thing about time travel is what's going to happen before it's actually happened.
Anyway, so that's all going to happen, and hopefully everybody has a bit of fun. What do you think?
Well, I certainly hope people have fun.
Yeah, I'm going to have fun. I've already had fun,
So have I. So have I indeed. El Kahuna Grande. El Kahuna Grande. Yeah. So what we're going to need you guys to do is just sit back, relax, and tune in each week. Because we talking dogs. And we're ugly. See you next week, Big Kahuna.
Yeah, see you then.
Big handsome son of a bitch.